Democratic Socialists have a place in the Democratic Party, Senator?
Yes, they do, as part of the debate. And in this upcoming election, candidates can be very clear about where they strongly disagree with the DSA, which is probably on most issues. But they can also talk about their own plans. So, I'm not afraid of debate. I think that those in the Democratic Party who are afraid of a healthy debate are missing the point, because voters, including Democratic voters, they don't want to simply return to the pre-Trump status quo. They want Democrats who are going to stand for something. And I can strongly disagree with one set of Democrats. But I think that debate is healthy.
Well, OK, talking about the debate, let's talk about the DSA platform. It calls for, in part, replacing the president and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress, and, quote, to abolish the Senate, the chamber, of course, in which you serve. Do those ideas go too far for you?
Yes, of course they do for me. And I think a lot of the folks who are running, regardless of where they are on the Democratic spectrum, have rejected those ideas. And so I think when you look at the Democratic Party right now, you're looking at a party that, again, is incredibly united when it comes to making sure we're out there, standing up for working people. We need to end this war in Iran, which is driving up prices. And the reason that Senator Scott didn't want to talk about this election and the issues and didn't want to talk about Trump's record is because you have a rubber stamp Republican Senate and rubber stamp Republican candidates who simply want to do Donald Trump's bidding.
And very quickly, would you accept an endorsement by the DSA?
I would not. I'm not going to sort of look into all these endorsements. I'm not going to reject an endorsement by certain individuals at the DSA, but I'm certainly not seeking the endorsement from the DSA. And I do think, Kristen, that this whole debate is an effort by Republicans, as you heard from Senator Scott, to try to reduce the turnout for Democrats. I don't think it's going to work, because at the end of the day, what unites Democrats is economic populism, standing up for working people.
What's up, family? You already know what time it is. We back in the lab breaking down more political nonsense that they think we're just going to swallow and keep moving like we ain't paying attention. But you already know, family, we don't work like that here. We watch everything. We pay attention to the details, and we're not afraid to call it exactly how we see it, respectfully. So before I get into this one, hit the like button, share this video with somebody who needs to see what their party is really doing. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get into it. I promise you, this one is going to have you shaking your head from start to finish. You already seen the clip. So here's the situation. We got a Democrat senator sitting down for an interview with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. His name is Democrat Senator Van Hollen. This is one of those interviews where you'll think the host is going to ask softballs. Let him get his talking points out and move on to the next segment. But that's not what happened here. The host actually asked him a real question, a direct question, surprisingly. The kind of question that, if you're honest, you'll answer one way. But if you're a politician, you'll start doing linguistic gymnastics to avoid telling the truth, as we've seen here. And what we saw in this clip is a perfect example of why regular people are sick and tired of politics. Because when you watch this exchange, as we did just now, family, it becomes crystal clear that these people don't actually believe what they're saying. They're saying what they have to say to keep their power, keep their funding, keep their seat, and they're hoping you're not paying close attention or notice. So let me set the scene for you now. The host looks at this senator and asks him straight up, no sugarcoating, do you think the Democratic Socialists have a place in the Democratic Party? Now, pause right there. Think about that question for a second. The Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA, these are people who openly say they want to abolish the Senate. They want to get rid of the Supreme Court as we know it. They want a whole new system where Congress runs everything. And they're calling for replacing the president with some executive chosen by Congress. These are not moderate positions. These are extreme positions. And these are the kind of ideas that would fundamentally change the entire structure of American government. So when you ask a sitting United States senator, a guy who actually works in the Senate, a guy whose job will literally be eliminated under the DSA's plan, whether those people have a place in his party, you would think the answer would be simple. You would think he'll say no. You would think he'll say hell no, but that's not what happened. Watching what this man done in his body language, as we just watched in his head movement in his face, the host asks, do the Democrat Socialists have a place in the Democrat Party? And this senator Before he even opens his mouth, does a little head nod like he's psyching himself up to say something he don't really believe. And then he says, yes, they do, as part of the debate, end quote. Yes, they do. He said it with his whole chest. He said it right there on the camera. He admitted that the Democratic Socialists have a place in the Democrat Party. Now, you already know what I'm thinking. Did this man just say that? Did he really just confirm that the socialists have a seat at the table? Because that's exactly what happened. He didn't dodge it. He didn't say, well, that's a complicated question. He didn't pivot to talking about Republicans right then and there at that moment. He straight up said, yes, they do. And the look on his face told you everything you needed to know. That was a man who knew he had to say something that he didn't believe. But he said it anyway because the alternative was worse for him politically. And that's the part that gets me every single time. And let's be real for a second. This man does not believe that the DOC has a place in his party. I watched enough politicians to know when somebody is lying through their teeth while trying to look sincere. His own face portrayed him. That little hesitation, yes, they do. That little nod before he spoke, that was a man calculating in real time. If I say no, the DSA comes after me. If I say no, I lose their voters. If I say no, I might get primary. But if I say yes, I look weak and hypocritical because their platform literally calls for abolishing my job. That's what he was thinking, Senator Van Hollen. So he did what politicians always do. He said yes, but then tried to attach conditions to it to make it sound reasonable. He said yes, but as part of the debate. He said yes, but the candidates, but candidates can disagree with them. He said yes, but they can talk about their own plans. All of that is just cover. All of that is him trying to have it both ways. And that's the problem with politics in America right now. Nobody wants to stand for anything. Everybody wants to play both sides and hope nobody notices. Here's where it gets even worse. Kristen Welker, the host on this clip, didn't let him off the hook because she came back with receipts. She hit him with the actual DSA platform. She said, and I quote, let's talk about the DSA platform. It calls for, in part, replacing the president and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and is subordinate to Congress and to abolish the Senate, the chamber of course in which you serve. Do these ideas go too far for you? End quote. Now, that's a real question. That's the kind of question that separates people who have principles from people who just have talking points. She read his own party's radical platform back to him and asked him directly, does this go too far? And how he answered, he says, yes, of course they do for me. Yes, of course they do for me. Did you catch that? For me. He's already creating distance. He's trying to separate himself from the platform while still keeping the door open for the people who support it. He's saying these ideas go too far for me personally, but I'm not going to say they have no place in the party because that would cost me politically. And then he immediately pivots. He starts talking about how the Democrat Party is incredibly united when it comes to making sure we're out there standing up for the working people. There it is, the pivot, the classic politician move, classic talking point, word solid. When you get caught in a contradiction, change the subject. Start talking about something that sounds good. Say standing up for working people, because who's going to argue with that? Everybody wants to stand up for working people, but that's not what he was asked. He was asked about a platform that wants to abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court, and fundamentally restructure American government. To be honest, a thing that wants to not only restructure American government, but don't protect the democracy that Democrats tout about protecting so much. His response is, we stand up for working people. That's not an answer. That's a deflection. And the fact that he thinks that works tells you everything you need to know about how politicians view the intelligence of the American people. It's insulting, actually. But the host asks him one more question, right? And this is the one that really exposes everything. Asks him, would you accept an endorsement by the DSA? Now think about this. He just said the DSA's ideas go too far for him. He just admitted their platform is too extreme. So logically, if a group's ideas go too far for you, you wouldn't want their endorsement, right? You wouldn't want to be associated with them, right? You would reject their support because it would make you look like you're aligned with their extreme positions, right? Wrong. Because he says, and I quote, I'm not going to sort of look into all these endorsements. I'm not going to reject any endorsement by certain individuals at the DSA, but I am certainly not seeking endorsement from the DSA. Did you catch all the linguistic gymnastics in that one sentence? Because I sure did. It's like you're tooting my own horn here, man. Like, literally. Like, this is like a linguistic gymnastic party. But let me break it down for you. Let me break it down for you. Constantly. That's all I hear. Literally. That's what I hear. Linguistic gymnastics of a party. Just circulating in repetition, repeatedly. Hopefully the humor made you laugh or make your day better. But let me break it down for you, because this is the kind of double talk that makes regular people lose their minds, is my point. And he starts by saying, I would not. That sounds like rejection, right? But wait. He immediately follows it up with, I'm not going to sort of look into all these endorsements. What does that even mean? He's already creating an out. He's saying I wouldn't seek it, but if it happens, I'm not going to look too closely at it. I'm not going to reject it. I'm going to accept it quietly and hope nobody notices. That sounds about right. To be honest, family, bingo. Then he says, I'm not going to reject an endorsement by certain individuals at the DSA. So he went from I would not to I'm not going to reject it in the span of one sentence. That's not a position. That's a politician trying to keep every door open so nobody gets mad at him. That's a man who has no principles, no backbone, and no problem lying to your face if it means keeping his power. And if you already know the DSA's platform, it's not some little disagreement about tax rates. These people want to abolish the Senate. These individuals, the common denominator that have come across a lot of Americans have been speaking of is if you don't disagree with them, they hate you. They will eradicate you. Get rid of it. The same way they want to reconstruct your American government, because they hate it because it doesn't go within getting their way. It's like kids with tantrum that have bachelor's degrees, which most of the DSA platform is made out of. And there's nothing wrong with having a bachelor's degree. I applaud them for actually committing to something and getting a 4-year degree. But it's a simple fact that the theory and experimental ideology that they're trying to dawn or put on Americans that do not accept this and never has worked in the history of time, as you've seen Venezuela, the Soviet Union, the Fidel Castros over there at Cuba, it never worked. It hurt people, killed people, and oppressed people, and created scarcity and rationing. It's sad, right? But the DSA, I feel like, is also a component of where we're at nowadays, and the rise in extreme, and the most important, and the most history of politics, political violence has been at an all-time high. Take Charlie Kirk, for example, and my heart goes out to his family. He still is a husband, a father. He still is a man. Whether you disagree with him or agree with him, I'm not going, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I'm not going for the whole, this is my side versus your side stuff. He was a human. He was a man. And for the sake of humanity, what I'm saying is the common denominator that most Americans see with DSA platform is if you don't agree, you are a threat. We have to eradicate you, even as far as extreme to ignite political violence. So forget agreeing to disagree, which would be the mature thing to do, and respecting all of human life and different perspectives, and using those perspectives as a way and energy to continue to make sure we're on the right side of history. But oh no, just let me hear what I want to hear. And if you don't hear what I want to hear, get out the way. Say what I want you to say. I only want to hear what I want you to say. Tell me that I want to hear. And if you don't tell me what I want to hear, then you're a problem. We got to get rid of you. And that's why Van Hollen, the senator here on the screen, is scared. He is like bat crap scared. And they want to eliminate his job. This man is a senator. They want to replace the Supreme Court. They want to fundamentally change the Constitution as we know it. And he's sitting there saying, I wouldn't reject an endorsement from them. That is cowardice at its finest. That is a man who is more afraid of losing his seat than he is standing for something. And that's the problem with both parties, but especially with what's happening on the left right now. The Democrats are being pulled further and further left by a radical faction that doesn't believe in the same America that regular people believe in. And instead of standing up and saying, no, this is too far, this is wrong, I will not be part of this, they go on TV and they do exactly what this senator did. They say, yes, they have a place. They say they wouldn't reject their endorsement. They try to have it both ways and hope you don't notice. And you know what else is funny, ironically, but not literally? The way he tried to end the segment, he pivoted again to talking about how Republicans are trying to reduce turnout for Democrats. Classic move, buddy. Whoop-de-doo. When you're losing the argument, attack the other side. Don't we know that already? When you've been caught in a contradiction, change the subject, something your base gets angry about. He said the whole debate is an effort by Republicans to reduce turnout for Democrats. No, sir. The debate exists because your party has been taken over by socialists who want to fundamentally change America as we know it. This is a dangerous time. We need to make sure we make the right decisions for our generations and generation after generation. And not to get personal, but I have a child who is autistic, a son. All right. And I have never been so passionate about politics. I mean, I always was interested, in student government. I was a president of student government in middle school. I did my whole little speech, ran up, got my votes. I thought I was like Obama. I wasn't really into it, but I just admired the position of presidency. Whoever it is, whether I disagreed or not as a kid. And I still do, right? Which doesn't very much happen to be upheld nowadays, in the name of Trump derangement syndrome. But it's just mind-blowing to me how our countries at stake are being changed due to ideology and individuals who come from different countries who don't respect the fabric and the soul of what America has been and how it became prosperous for them to want to come over here so bad, but then they want to come over here and then they feel entitled enough to change the very thing that they benefit from. And he is Democrat Senator Van Hollen here on the screen is too afraid to say anything about it. That's why the debate exists. Not because of Republicans, because your party has a serious identity crisis and you're pretending like everything is fine while the radicals are running the show. So let me tell you what this actually looks like in real life. Imagine you work at a company, you've been there for years, you got a good position, you're a manager or whatever, and then this new group of people start coming in, they're loud, they're aggressive, they start saying the company should be run completely different. They want to get rid of your department, they want to eliminate your position, they want to reconstruct everything from the ground up, and you watch them gain power, and you watch them get support, and you watch them start taking over, and now your boss comes to you and asks, hey, do those people have a place here? What are you going to say? If you're honest, you'll say no. These people want to destroy what the company has built and what the company has as if I known it and when I got initially hired. And I respect the company who gave me the opportunity. And I have benefited off of it. So it would be contradicting to say, hey, they should be a part of it when that's not what I was a part of when I got hired. And the opportunity wouldn't have been there if it wasn't what has been built in the first place initially. But if you say no, you might be their next target. So you say what this senator said. Yes, they do as part of the debate. You try to sound reasonable why people who want to take your job are standing right there smiling at you in the case of this senator here. Right? It's mind-blowing. And that's what we just watched. That's what American politics has become. Here's the thing that really gets me. This senator knows the DSA platform is bonkers. He said it himself. He said that he know they crazy. He said those ideas go too far for him. He admitted that abolishing a chamber he literally works in is too extreme. So why won't he just say it? Why won't he just stand up and say these people do not represent me or my party? Because he's scared. Because he knows the DSA has momentum. He knows they have money. He knows they have young voters who are passionate and organized. He knows they have it. That if he crosses them, he could be the next Democrat who gets primary out of office by somebody even further to the left. The Hassan Pikers, right? So he chooses survival over principle. He chooses his career over honesty. And that's the problem with the entire political class in America. That's why Trump got so embraced. Would you want a president that talks smooth and charming with the linguistic gymnastics as him, but never get no results and never stand for anything? You don't know what you're getting with him. And at the end of the day, the result speaks for itself because nothing got done. Or yes, Trump can not be as presidential, which in the definition that we have defined it to be, where you have to be smooth and charming and say the right things. But Trump is real. He's an anomaly. And the simple fact is, Yes, he may not have said everything up to your standard of perfection because it's not quote unquote presidential, whatever that means. And nowadays we remix definitions to be something that it doesn't even mean, but to our own benefit, which is wrong because you don't stand for anything. As soon as something don't go your way, you're remixing it based on your ideology, which is the base or the fruition of what the Democratic Socialists has and of America have came because the Democrats remix anything as long as it keeps them in power, doing whatever that keeps them in power. And now look how far and the monster they created has overtaken them. But I say all that to say that with President Trump, he was embraced because you know what you were getting. At the end of the day, the tone will fade. It's no different if you've been held accountable as a child or you've been scolded. You're gonna get on punishment. You should have been behaving in school. Blah 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 blah. Accountability, personal accountability, and responsibility that was being portrayed or displayed. No different if you were in the service, right? The army. And thank you to all my servicemen and servicewomen. Thank you for your service, truly. And they want to get rid of the military. They don't even want they want open borders. They don't even want our country protected. They want to just, if you don't have if you don't have secure borders, you don't have a country. So how can you protect it? So they basically want us like our allies of NATO that we protect, along with Canada, who is disrespectful like a little spoiled child that always needs to come to parent, mommy and daddy United States to get propped up to even be sustained the way it is instead of being taken over. Ungrateful, but that's a different subject. But the simple fact is this. Trump, yes, he may be aggressive. He may be a little bit passionate. The masculinity comes out through the passionate patriotism. That'll fade, but the results show. He does the work. And he can back up what he say he's going to do. And transparent with it. That's what got embraced. Not this linguistic gymnastics stuff that he's playing Kamala Harris word solid. Now, I want you to think about what this means for the average American. You got a party that used to be about working class values, used to be about the middle class, used to be about standing up for the little guy. And now they're openly embracing a platform that wants to abolish the Senate and the Supreme Court and basically squash the little guy in the name of taxation and eradicate you. And if you don't agree with them, they definitely want to get rid of you in the name of political violence, which is not acceptable and should never be acceptable. They're saying socialists have a place in their big tent, as Chuck Schumer have said, the Democratic Party. They're saying they wouldn't reject an endorsement from people who want to tear down the entire system. And they're doing this while they're telling you they're standing up for working people. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up at all. And that's why you see so many working class voters, Hispanic, black, white, you name it, all different types of race, walking away from the Democratic Party. Just Democrat voters, period. Because they see what we're all seeing based on the character of this party. Has nothing to do with skin color. The party has been taken over by people whose ideas will destroy the country. And the ones who know better are too scared to say anything. Think about it from a common sense perspective. If I told you I was going to start a club, and the purpose of the club was to get rid of your job, abolish your position, and reconstruct everything you know, would you let me in the club? Let me know in the comments, family. Would you say I have a place in your club? Would you accept my endorsement and support? No. You'll tell me, get out of here. You're crazy. Skedaddle. You'll stand on business and say, absolutely not. Buckwheat. But that's not what the senator did. And that's not what the Democratic Party is doing. They're letting the radicals in. They're giving them a seat at the table. They're saying, yes, they have a place. And they're hoping you're too distracted by the other side to notice that the party you used to trust has been completely taken over. And you already know what the response is going to be from the defenders. They're going to say, but Republicans are worse, but Trump is worse. But you got to look at what the other side is doing. And you know what? That might be true. The other side might have their own problems. But that doesn't excuse what we just watched. It doesn't make it okay for a sitting senator to say socialists have a place in his party while admitting their ideas go too far for him. Two wrongs don't make a right. So you're serving yourself and not serving your people. They too far for you, but you don't care at the destruction of the people that voted you in to represent. As a public official, you are. Says a lot about you. And the fact that the other side has problems doesn't mean we should ignore the problems on this side. That's the kind of thinking that lets both parties get away with anything. But the other side, quote unquote, I don't care about the other side right now. I'm talking about what we just saw with our own eyes. A senator admitted in the DSA runs things and nobody is brave enough to stop it. Now, let me talk about what this DSA platform actually says, because I don't think most people understand how radical it is. Replacing the United States executive branch with an executive chosen by a subordinate to Congress. That means no more independent executive branch. President becomes a puppet of Congress. They want to replace the Supreme Court with a judiciary chosen by a subordinate to Congress. That means no more independent judiciary. No more checks and balances, which our founding fathers put in place, because by human nature, if you get too much power, then you can go corrupt, because through greed and power and money, you have the temptation there. The courts become a tool of the legislative branch, and they want to abolish the Senate entirely. No more equal representation for the states. No more checks on the House of Representatives. Just one chamber controlled by whoever happens to have the majority. That is not a tweak in the system. That is a complete dismantling of the Constitution as we know it. This is the death of the separation of powers, the end of checks and balances, the blueprint for a completely different form of government. And this senator said they have a place in his party. Let that sink in, man. The party of the left, the party that controls the White House, the party that controls the Senate, the party that has enormous influence over American policy, has a sitting senator on MSNBC, on national television, that a group dedicated to abolishing the Senate and Supreme Court has a place in their party. Yo, that's not even an off-the-cuff mistake. That's just a calculated political decision to keep the radicals happy so they don't come after him. And that's where we are right now in American politics. The inmates are running asylum. The radicals are setting an agenda. And the people who know better are too scared to say anything. And the crazy part is, what get under my skin is, the senator ended his little segment by saying, what unites Democrats is economic populism and standing up for working people. Let's be real for a second. If you're standing up for working people, why are you welcoming a group that wants to abolish the institution that protects those working people? Like, seriously. Like, that is not okay. That is not okay. It's not okay. That Senate gives every state, no matter how small, equal representation that protects working people in rural states from being dominated by big cities. The Supreme Court protects the constitutional rights of every American, including working people. Not to mention, we have the controversy of flock cameras starting to spread among states, primarily blue states, which a lot of people feel that basically conflicts and basically violates the right to privacy. But that's a different topic. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. But the separation of powers prevents any one branch from becoming too powerful and crushing the little guy. These are the things that protect working people, and the DSA wants to abolish all of them. So when this senator says he's standing up for working people while welcoming the DSA, he's either lying or he doesn't understand how government works. And either way, that's a problem. Competent or just dumb. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm just incompetent, competent, or dumb. Like, I don't know. I'm not in his brain. But man, what he just said is you cannot unhear that. You know what I think? I think he knows exactly what's happening, though. I think he knows the DSA is on the rise. I think he knows they're coming for the institutions. I think he knows his position is at risk if they get too powerful. But instead of standing up and fighting, instead of being a leader and saying this is wrong, he's trying to ride the wave and hope it doesn't crash on him. It's not leadership. That's survival, right? That's what happens when you have no principles to fall back on, when you don't believe in anything deeply enough to risk losing your position over it as a leader. And that's the rot at every center of American politics. We have too many people in office who don't believe anything except staying in office. And here's what I want to tie it back to you, family. Because this is just about one senator or one interview. This is about the direction of the country. This is about what kind of America we're going to leave to our kids and grandkids. And when you have a major political party openly welcoming socialists into their coalition, when you have senators too afraid to say no to people who want to abolish the Senate, think about it. The senators who have the power are afraid. So what does that mean for the people that elected them? They're supposed to be speaking on their behalf of. When you have elected officials lying to your face about what they believe because they're scared of losing their jobs, that's a problem. That's a problem that affects every single one of us, because the policies these people support, the direction they're pushing the country, the changes they want to make, they affect your job, your family, your safety, your community, your future. So the question I have for you, family, is this: what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep letting them play you for a fool? Are you going to keep letting them say one thing on camera and do another thing behind closed doors? Are you going to keep letting them tell you they're standing up for working people while letting the socialists run the show? Or are you going to pay attention? Are you going to hold them accountable? Are you going to show up and vote? Are you going to have conversations with people who might not see what you see? Even if you agree to disagree, the beauty of different perspectives is always amazing with a productive conversation. Like right now, I'm not telling you what to think about it. I'm just having a productive conversation, right? Because that's the only way any of this changes. And to know and measure if you are on the right side of things, right? Because if things are truthful, the truth never leaves, and you'll see the confirmation and be around those who speak truth as well, because two birds together flock together. End up with losers, you'll be a loser, right? So you'll get confirmation because you'll be saying the same thing, but it'll just be in different ways, but still similar in how it is still landing on the same point of truth. And for those who don't, okay, you may disagree, but then you can still lead with truth, and then you can see based on what metric of result actually helps us stay on the right side of history. That's why the difference of opinion and having different perspectives is beautiful. But they only change their behavior when they're afraid of losing their jobs. The only way they lose their jobs is if we pay attention, hold them accountable, and show up. So at the end of the day, what we watched in that clip is a perfect example of why people are losing trust in institutions and why people are tuning out. Is why people are frustrated, because they see with their own eyes a politician saying something they know he doesn't believe, and they know that he's only saying it because he's scared of a radical faction that's taking over his party, and nobody's willing to stand up and tell the truth, and that's why this channel exists. This is why we do what we do here, family, because somebody has to break it down in plain English to tell you what's really happening. I'm going to do that for you, family, as long as you keep watching. So let me leave you with this. This video, we broke down the video from that interview, this clip on the screen. It's not just about one senator. It's about the entire direction of a political party that used to claim it was the party of the working class. And now look at them. They're defending socialists. They're making excuses for people who want to abolish the Senate. And they're saying, yes, they have a place. And the same people who used to vote for them, the working class people who used to trust them, are waking up and realizing they've been played and their votes have always been taken for granted and been taken for granted for a long time than it was actually appreciated. And that's why you see the shift happening. That's why you see more voters looking at the Republican Party for the first time in their lives, because they see what we all see. The Democratic Party is no longer a party of the working class. It's the party of the radicals. And the people who used to be its base are tired of being taken for granted. So the verse I want to leave with you is Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 9 through 10. And it says, I quote, "The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to whatever their deeds deserve." End quote. That verse lands hard on this clip, because what we watched wasn't just a politician giving a bad interview. We watched a man whose heart was exposed on live television. His mouth said one thing, his head did another. And he tried to hide his true feelings behind words he thought would protect him. But his heart was deceitful, and it got searched. It got examined right there in front of everybody. And the thing about Jeremiah 17, chapter 17, is it reminds us that no matter how good you get at pretending, no matter how slick your words are, there's always somebody who sees through it, and the host saw through it. And so did we. No matter if Kristen Welker, the host, wanted to admit it or not. But for my family who aren't spiritual, my non-spiritual family who might not connect with the scripture, you can only hide what you really think for so long. Eventually, your true feelings find a way out. And that could be, you ever been like in a relationship with someone you love, and you try to, you don't want to say something because you really don't want to argue, but you just want to make a point so you can come to get a clear understanding amongst each other. But you got to pick and choose your battles, and certain things may be more egotistical, where it's just violating your ego, but it's not really worth saying anything about. But you ever had a situation where you were like, I want to say something, but I know they're going to take it personal, and that's not my intention, just to get an understanding, right? So when you really look at it, you start being passive aggressive because you're holding it in. You may start slamming cabinets, doing things, because action wise, outwardly, you're expressing what you're holding in inwardly in your mind, and you just want to have a conversation out of love and get an understanding. So they come out in your body language, is my point. An example of passive aggressive. But for those who lead with the truth and seek understanding, you won't have to do that. Seek understanding in all that you do. See, they come out in a way you avoid a direct question. You ever felt like you walked on eggshells? Because the one that actually you want to just be truthful and always get understanding, for the both of you to improve your relationship, they don't want to seek the truth, because every time you speak it, it reminds them of the truth they run away from. But then you're walking on eggshells because you love them and you just want peace, not argument. But now it's coming out through your body language and through passive aggressive because it's just building up. And that's not good, right? So this the whole thing with the senator in this interview. Trying to look like he was fine with the DSA, but every micro movement, every dodge, every pivot told a different story. Don't live that way. Say what you mean what you say, respectfully, out of love. Because the people around you are watching closer than you think. And they already know the truth. They're just waiting to see if you're honest enough to say it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those post notifications. Spread that peace, love, and positivity, family. Let the love supersede the hate. I'll catch you next one, family. Love you guys. Peace. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Stay amazing. And more prosperity to all of you.